Spider-Man 3 update, God of War update, and Microsoft creating AI games for their catalog. All that and more in today's video. Please like the video, subscribe to never miss a gaming update, and share the video to help grow our community. We'll also be going over comment of the day, so make sure you leave a comment to be featured in the next one. Now let's talk about Spider-Man 3. Yuri Lowenthal, who voices Peter Parker in Insomniac's Spider-Man series, has suggested the character won't play second fiddle to Miles Morales in the next series entry. In quotes, "There are very few things that I can say about this game, but you have somehow landed on the one thing that I can answer, and that's that yes, Peter is not gone," Lowenthal had told The Direct. "He will be a part of the next game, and he won't be relegated to the couch, I promise." And he also said back in February when he talked to Variety that, "While I think that Peter would love to believe that he can just turn it off and not be Spider-Man anymore and live a completely normal life, I don't think that's what's going to happen now." So it sounds like he's saying that Peter Parker is still going to be a major part of Spider-Man 3 and a playable character. Obviously, there is no other evidence for us to believe this, but I would say that he probably knows a thing or two about his role. Whether he was okay to say this is another thing, but I'm pretty confident that they wouldn't put Peter Parker on the back seat as far as playable characters go in the game. If we're still using Mary Jane and Spider-Man 2, I would really hope that we're still using Peter Parker and Spider-Man 3. It just makes sense. I also think that we have to remember the origins of Spider-Man, the games at least, the first two games that came, and I feel like not having Peter Parker in Part 3 would be very weird. It wouldn't be fitting. I don't want to see Peter Parker take a backseat. I still want to play as him. I don't mind them adding other characters as well, but I think Peter Parker has to stay an integral part of the series, at least for now, until maybe they decide to do something really crazy later on. But for now, I really think he needs to be a part of the next game as well. And again, this is very much speculation on my part, and obviously we're going based off of a quote from his voice actor, so that's kind of where we are right now. There's no other evidence for this other than what he's saying. Let me know what you guys think about this. If you think that Peter Parker will be playable in Spider-Man 3, or do you think they're going to give him a backseat for the next entry? Moving on, we're talking about God of War. So we're discussing a God of War remaster. Obviously, this has been very well discussed for a very long time, and the question was, when is this going to happen, not if it's going to happen. And of course, we've got somebody super reliable to discuss here, otherwise it would kind of not be something to discuss, and that's Jeff Grubb, who you guys probably are very familiar with, who has leaked tons of stuff. And he says in quotes, "I think that those God of War remaster rumors just jumped the gun a little bit. That stuff will happen closer to the anniversary," which is the 20th anniversary, which lands on March 22nd, marking the release of the first game back in 2005. So if we're going based off the first game, it's March 22nd, and that is literally next month. So according to Jeff Grubb, at least, that is when we can expect a release date or an announcement for these games. The big question is this collection of games going to be a super deep remake of the classics, or is it going to be PlayStation bringing them forward from PS3 over to the PS5 and adding the haptics and all that stuff, maybe a higher frame rate, maybe better upscaling, maybe just making it look better on the PS5? Or are we talking about a complete remake of the models, of enemies, of just really bringing it into 2025, even though they may not change, say, the gameplay, for example? I think they could certainly reskin it, and they could sell it with the same gameplay, maybe give some quality of life improvements, and it would do really well, and I think a lot of people would enjoy it. Do I think that that's guaranteed to happen? Honestly, I would be surprised if they put that much effort into it, because it is a lot of work to do, and I wonder if they have the resources to put all of that into this project. Assuming it's a lot of work, which I believe that it is. If it's not, I could see them doing a remastered collection where, again, maybe they up-res the game, right? Make the game look a lot more refined and polished, but still very much the same game, and also adding a higher frame rate mode and obviously resolution mode. So that's kind of where I am with this. I would hope, and I would be excited to see them go further than that. If it's a remaster, it makes things a lot easier, but if we're talking about a remake, that's tough. But even if you look at the quote, he talks about the God of War remasters rumors, meaning that it's just a remastered collection more so than a remake collection. So yeah, it seems like a situation where we're looking at a remastered collection with a high resolution, higher frame rate. Maybe they refine some other stuff, but I just don't see it being a full-blown remake. But I still think it'd be exciting. I still think a lot of people would benefit off of this and would enjoy playing the collection that they probably may have not played. Maybe there are tons of people who played God of War 2018 and that was their starting point, and they would love to know Kratos' journey prior to the game, and it's just not as accessible. Yeah, we got PS Plus Premium, which you can stream the games on, but it's just not the same, and a lot of people aren't going to jump into that. But if you sell the game, that's another story, right? So I think it just opens another avenue for people to explore the God of War remaster. So very, very cool stuff here. I'm hoping that that does happen, and I believe that it likely will because of the source that it's coming from. Next, we're talking about Project Muse, or Microsoft's Muse, which is using a generative AI model that basically generates game visuals, controller actions, or both. In quotes, Satya Nadella says, "It's just very cool. One thing that we wanted to go after was using gameplay data. Can you actually generate games that are both consistent and then have the ability to generate the diversity of what that game represents and then are persistent to user mods, right?" So that's what this is, he told the Dwarkish podcast. He also says, "The cool thing is, what I'm excited about is we're going to have a catalog of games soon that we will start using these models, or we're going to train these models to generate and then start playing them." In fact, when Phil Spencer first showed it to me, where he had an Xbox controller and this model basically took the input and generated the output based on the input, and it was consistent with the game. And that to me is a massive, massive moment of wow. It's kind of like the first time we saw ChatGPT complete sentences, or Dolly Draw, or Sora. This is kind of one such moment. And look, guys, I get it. I get it. People are using AI models to make workflow more efficient and not having to cost so much to create certain things. And I get it. I understand the purpose behind AI. It's not to replace developers completely. It's to basically require less people and to make things more efficient. But with that said, when you remove the human aspect, I feel like it creates more problems than anything else. And on top of that, I think that you're probably going to get less creative work, right? The human mind is so complex versus, say, AI, right? We can think in such abstract ways, and we have such a different perspective on things that it is invaluable in many, many ways. And I feel like as soon as you start replacing that with AI, you're getting rid of jobs, you're getting rid of creativity, you're going to experience games that don't really think outside the box per se. They're not going to take you in directions that otherwise you wouldn't see. Now, some might argue, hey, we're getting a lot of remasters, remakes, sequels. You know, we've been playing Call of Duty every single year. Yeah, I understand that. But a thing like Call of Duty, for example, wouldn't exist if AI models were building these things, right? So I think that these great IP that we know of, God of War, Spiderman, Uncharted, The Last of Us, these kind of IP, Ghost of Tsushima, I don't feel like an AI model could ever create something like that. Now, I know, again, it's not to replace the entire process done by humans, but at the same time, I really feel like video games being art and an art form requires the human touch for it to make impeccable work, to make work that is going to impress us and make us really sit back and reflect and connect with the pieces, right? Whereas if it's, you know, half the work's done by AI or whatever it may be, I really feel like it takes away from the art. It truly does. And I'm really not for it, and I won't advocate for it, and I don't agree with it. And I know these companies are going to push this in hopes of saving money, making more money in the same vein, and, you know, pushing these games that are probably going to be pretty generic down our throats that we're just not going to enjoy. So that's where I'm at with this. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about this. Like, are you expecting the rest of the industry to follow? And do you think that's a good or a bad thing? Now, moving on, we're going to talk about the comment of the day. Comment of the day comes from MegFam9980, who says, PlayStation needs to stop porting to PC. They are the competition now, since Xbox is third party, especially if Steam goes into console and if Microsoft makes Xbox OS. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that the whole PC porting nature is something that I can understand why they do it, but I do think you also bring up a good point. If PC becomes a threat to PlayStation's existence and to their ecosystem and to their fan base going over to the other platform, then yeah, they need to definitely, curb that right away, because you don't want to give more reasons for your competition to take over, right? So if Steam comes into the console field and they start really doing well, I think PlayStation will definitely take a look at that a little closer and adapt. I think until, PC becomes a real threat, I don't know that Sony will stop porting some games. Again, I don't think PlayStation wants to port all their games. I think they want to port select games, especially now, that make sense and that are going to be lucrative for them. But they won't stop porting unless, PC becomes a clear threat to them. And when I say clear threat to them, that they see it on their bottom line. Until they see it on their bottom line, they're going to port over there, because what it comes down to is they have to weigh off, like, is it worth it, right? Is this money that we're going to potentially lose from being on PC, people going to PC to play our games rather than buying our console, enough to make us stop doing that? And I think that's a question we won't have the answer to until we see PC really take over in a major way into the console space, which I just don't see that happening anytime soon. I think a console is so different from a PC, and unless Steam makes a console that's very compelling, it's a tough break. I just don't see them doing it, at least not in my opinion. But let me know what you guys all think of that. Do you think PC is a threat to PlayStation? And do you think that Steam could come into the console space and make a real dent now that Xbox is seemingly starting to depart, at least what it looks like they're doing? As always, guys, if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and share the video to help grow our community. I thank you all for watching. Take care.